What's up, everybody? It's Marcos with the Runners On podcast. I'm here with my co-host Trevor. Today, we're going to be sitting down and talking with the Sac City head coach, Derek Sullivan. Derek, how you doing today?
Great. Just happy to be here.
Yeah.
These are always fun.
So we're going to get started right off the bat. First question I have for you is, what does baseball mean to you?
Oh, it's been, I don't want to get over romantic, but, one of the loves of my life. And now it's like actually my profession. And now it means something to my kids, medical benefits, retirement, just ensure all the things that go along with a really good job. And I've been able to turn my passion into my work. And as I've gone through life, I'm 44 years old. The amount of people that I've met, and you hear about it, and that there's a level of jealousy. That's not what it's about. But I really love my job and the sport of baseball and my continued involvement. And like, I get to spend time thinking about it and interacting with young men and even, kids at camps and my elders and my peers. It means a lot. And I think that that's probably like a loaded term, a lot, but it's not everything because, I've got kids and family and that's more important. But the fact that I get to put them on par, it means a whole hell of a lot to me, the game of baseball.
Yeah, I think that's pretty well said. So going into that a little bit more, you've spent over 20 plus years here at Sac City. What's kept you?
I love what we're about. I love our why. And each year I have a chance, as the head coach especially, I get to influence what we do at Sac City the most. So it's my job. I'm a caretaker of the program. I'm a leader of the program. I'm a product of the program. And, there's a lot of, you look around our locker room if you ever get the chance to video that, and there's a lot of sayings, but this is a place where dreams can come true, but it's the dreams coinciding with the harsh reality of how to get somewhere, how to do something. We don't say never. This is a no limits program, but it's not the rainbows and unicorns statement that a lot of people think it is. It's, oh, you want to be a big leaguer? Well, 44 guys have done it before you, but it ain't easy.
Yeah.
And it might be impossible, but we really here at City, we say yet, hey, you're not good enough yet. You're not strong enough yet. You'll absolutely, based on who you are, you'll never be able to do that yet. And attracting players and coaches and people to our program that's what they need and seek, and we inspire them to do their best. And sometimes it really means that. Like, I've had plenty of guys that can't play here that are awesome human beings, and I hope they come back as alumni forever.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just the guys that get to the big leagues. It's all the stories. And, that's what keeps me coming back. It's a great job. It is, but I could do other ones and probably for more money, even though it's a good job. It is, but it's about our why. We want to prepare people to become the best that they can be through baseball. That's our vehicle, and prepare them to get to the highest level of baseball possible. And I think we do a pretty good job of it. And I have a really big supporting cast they're outstanding. I would not be able to be the coach I am on my own, although I'd be a good one. I have all that confidence, but it's the program. It's because it is a program. It's not a series of teams. It's the program. We have a process. We have things that we deeply believe in, and I get to come do that for my job, and I believe in it daily, and I have ownership. So it's, I have the freedom to do what I want, but also the responsibility to do things that really matter to me.
You and the Panthers made the Final Four and the 3 C's and 2A's baseball championship. Can you explain the difference between the NCAA baseball playoffs and the CCAA playoffs?
Yeah, so we're just California. We have, I think this year it was 86 baseball playing schools and junior colleges in California, referred to as community colleges. That's the 3 C's is California community colleges. The difference is we're 2-year school. We don't give scholarships, although effectively, if you're a resident in the state in these last number of years, you're tuition free for your first 2 years out of high school. So everybody gets a scholarship, whether you're an athlete or not. That's a big difference.
Mhm.
And the level of the game, right? You're going to get juniors and seniors at the NCAA levels. They're a national tournament. Like, so as you get to the championships, it's truly all the schools in the country. Because we have such significant differences in our structures and how we're funded in California for our community colleges, we almost never interact with our colleagues in other states. There's a region called the NWAC, the Northwest Athletic or Association of Community Colleges up there. So it's Oregon and Washington, mainly Washington. And then the rest of the country is in one of the NJCAA levels, and they're 1, 2, and 3. They mirror the NCAA in number of levels and different like involvements and levels of scholarship. The highest level being Division I, even though there's a ton of Division II awesome and Division III great programs. But the main difference is 2-year versus 4-year. A hell of a lot more money at the Division I level of NCAA.
Yeah.
And they're older and their guys chasing degrees, whereas our guys are chasing the next school that they're going to go to. Obviously, with some respect to the professional draft, and there's a long history of success not only here but at other California JCs of producing future pros.
Diving into that a little bit more from both your perspective as a former player and a current head coach, how do you feel about the current landscape of collegiate baseball? And if there's any improvements that you'd like to maybe make on it or things that you wish weren't around, what are those?
I think it's a little bit more of the Wild West at the national level because of the transfer portal. Effectively, it's free agency. There's payments at the high end of college baseball, the NIL deals and/or revenue sharing. We very lightly interact with that. No payments, but there's some NIL kind of. Some guys have some light deals. I don't know how many of them are monetary. A lot of them are gifts in kind or services that are traded. But again, effectively, we don't do that. The transfer portal, free agency is good for individuals. So like for players that are really good, like we have a couple guys that have been able to take advantage of early signed scholarships, full scholarships, and then a level of compensation as part of their deals to go to their new schools. That happened this year. That's awesome. Like to be able to capitalize and especially for others at the higher levels that have been doing it, and football and basketball are the best examples or biggest examples. I'm more of a free market guy. I have an MBA. The business aspect of it, I love it when individuals can capitalize on their talents and skills. That's new to college, right? The amateurism concept is, I think we're years on now and no one's naive anymore, and it's a good thing. The problem is I'm also a coach and I have a level of control I like over my rosters and programs. And there's a lack of control because of the freedom of movement. So it's not bad, but it's destabilizing. And I think the proposal that looks like it might pass here shortly at the NCAA level of 5 years to play 5 years. So you can have any redshirt year or whatever you want in there, but you have 5 years to get it done. And you can play all 5 years is very interesting. Stabilization happens. The one free transfer, which is kind of throwback to what it used to be. You could transfer once.
Yep.
And then lots of changes have happened. I think that's another good thing for consistency and stabilization. But the financial benefit stuff probably is here to stay. This is America.
Yeah.
It's a free market. To limit that market, I don't think that there's a lot of legal traction that will gain now that the cat's out of the bag.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense, that's a long-winded answer to. There's some really good things. There's some things that are brand new, and personally, maybe they suck. But I'm also saying it from a coach's perspective.
Yeah.
I love coaching at my level because I don't have to deal with I've always dealt with the transient nature of junior college athletics. 2-year school, you get a guy for 2 years and you're promoting him and moving him on. That's built into what we do.
Yeah.
At the 4-year level, they're never about moving someone on.
Yeah.
And certain programs have adapted well and others haven't at all.
Touching on a little bit more, Andy McKay is the current field coordinator for the Cleveland Guardians. He was your mentor until you became head coach in 2012. In what ways do you think Andy's still quite involved with Sac City?
Because he's a Panther. Same as me, and other coaches that we've had for sure, was a player. Went off and got his degree, played a little bit at the next level. He was a Division II guy at Tampa. I think they won a College World Series, and he was more of a player coach. He was transitioning at that point. I think he'd tell you, I guess I was much better player than he was. I would tell you I played that much more here at City, but I laugh when I say that. It's probably true as far as the numbers go, but like our paths are similar. We left, we came back because we're like, hey, coaching might be in my future, and then fell in love with it here. And how we get to do it. He's still connected because he still comes back every year. Not only does he give back, from time to time, but he gives his time to us, and our connection to the professional game. Him and my pitching coach, this guy, Coach Bomber, the best of friends, like true friends. And so our connection to some information, that we're able to utilize within the program, it's not something that we're going to promote to everybody else. That's not what we do. That's our thing. But he's connected in so many ways. He's a resource. I can call him and ask him about past times and what he did with certain players or situations. And he's an open book. So it's awesome when we get towards the end of the season, get into the postseason. He's following along, probably back in his clubhouse, especially when as a GM with the Mariners, he's got a little bit more downtime during games, and he can check in on how Sac City's doing. So he's one of our many alumni that are incredibly connected still, in one way, shape, or form. But him more than most, I'll tell you.
You spent some time in the Cape Cod Baseball League as an assistant coach of the Chatham Anglers.
Chatham.
Thank you. From 2011 to 2012. Is there a defining moment from your time that shaped you as a coach there, and how have you taken it with you here?
I wouldn't say a moment. It was the experience. I got to spend 2 summers there. Andy McKay was the first Sac City coach. He was still an assistant. He went to be the pitching coach at Chatham for the same manager, John Schiffner. And if you've ever seen the movie Summer Catch, you should. Freddie Prinze is in it. Jessica Biel. It's a solid baseball movie, albeit a little corny, but it's based around the Chatham A's.
Okay.
And
that's sick.
Brian Dennehy is the actor based on John Schiffner. So I got to coach for him too. So Andy McKay, Descahe, Bomberry, and then I was the third Panther coach to go to Chatham. And then we actually sent another guy there afterwards, and he's now with Wichita State. So we have a history with Chatham. Just being there, it's an awesome, a very romantic baseball experience. It's a throwback to the old days. People bring their lawn chairs, and it's a very well-to-do, Cape Cod is a well-to-do place for the most part. New England vacation town, and it's well supported, but people are not behind fences. They're right on the painted chalk line for the out of bounds line. And you go to Yarmouth Dennis or Orleans, and it's a unique experience. And the people are right on the field. And it's just such a throwback Americana. And especially at that time, I haven't been back in a while, but you have the best amateur baseball, arguably in the world, being played on, at 10 little townships on Cape Cod, and it's just a beautiful thing. But the high level of talent, seeing, routine 100-mile-an-hour fastballs out of college guys during the summer.
Yeah.
Some of the best players that are going to be Hall of Famers, like Chris Bryant was a 19-year-old just after his freshman year on my first team. And you're just and as you go along and you watch professional baseball, as we all do, oh yeah, I coach that guy. And I don't lay claim to any of them other than it was an amazing experience for me to see what the highest level of the game can be like. And then when you bring back your eyeballs and your judgment of who's good and how are we going to coach these guys and what's it going to take to get to the next level, the biggest impact it had on me is I know what it looks like. Mm-hmm. And I can bring that back to my guys who are not there yet. To reference an earlier answer, yet. And then you see where guys have to be, and I think I'm a better coach because of it.
Speaking more on kind of that Cape Cod to Sac City connection, is that something that you plan to keep up, or did that kind of just be a spontaneous thing where McKay went, you followed suit, Coach Bomberry went, and then Greg Vaughn, big throwback, also former Panther, went and played in the Cape Cod League back in the 80s?
Yeah, he's one of them. We've had a number of guys go back distant past. It's hard for a junior college guy to get in there because they're getting the highest end pro draft picks, to be a lot of agency contacts. But it wasn't so much that oh yeah, it's been a couple years, let's send a guy to Chatham. Things coincided, and I didn't have any classes in summer school coming up, so it was one of those. It was an economic thing to begin with, and I had the freedom, no kids. I was not married yet. And it's hey, this would be good for my career. And I wasn't sure I was going to stay at Sac City for the long haul. That was another, lucky turn of events, so to speak. But I needed some money. And I also wanted to flesh out my resume. And staying here and doing the youth camps probably was more financially beneficial to me. But I had thoughts on, my next step might be to Division I baseball, and I need to get out there. And so my particular situation was, I can go get paid to coach in this prestigious league, and it's going to be a feather in my cap. It's going to be another one of those things to put on the resume that looks good. I was fortunate enough to be able to do it for 2 seasons. But again, at that time, it was a lot easier. Chatham needed an assistant, a level of an assistant coach. They had an opening, and with Andy McKay and this guy Bomberry backing me, it was a very easy. Oh, well, then he's in, and so that's how that happened. And then there's been since been a change in the management position, so it's a little different as far as calling and trying to get a guy, but it was definitely a good thing to be associated with Sac City.
Yeah.
If that answers the question.
I would say so. And then another thing I want to touch on real quick, what's the living situation like as a player and a coach?
So host families there are awesome. Not every town's the same, and there's some are probably better than others. And just like if you end up at a really, really big, nice, ritzy house versus some places they're more regular neighborhoods. And it's a small area, but a lot of vacation homes. So, but almost all the clubs have plenty of options to stay with a host family. So that's the norm. Sometimes you'll find coaches, like a coaching staff will live in one rented house for the summer and the club pays for it. I happen to live with John Schiffner, who had a house on the Cape. Him and his wife lived there, and it was big enough that, they put us up, and it's awesome. So it's a really unique experience. You don't necessarily have your own place, but it's special.
Yeah.
It's special, and it's all baseball all the time. Almost every day. They've changed it a little bit now. There are a few double headers, but they make sure they incorporate an off day a week. So the prospects, they want to create a situation where not only is it all the prospects competing against each other, so they can see how guys do and stack up, but they also want to take care of them and not they don't need to put them in a minor league situation quite yet.
Is there a recruiting story that you find yourself still thinking about?
I probably think more about the ones that we lost. The effort put into. So I have two examples of drove the better part of 2 hours, 3 different times on a recruit. This was last summer.
Okay.
Really like the player. You see him play enough and you look and you see some deficiencies, but again, good player. And he ended up going to another school, but we were all in. I spent a ton of time on the phone, on the road, in person, with the parents, the whole thing, and you lose them. And, it wasn't debilitating sadness, but it was like, man, to save that gas. but that's part of recruiting, right? And
Yeah.
because there's other stories where you call a guy or the guy calls you, he recruits us, and then ends up being a stud. So as the longer I do this, the more I go, there's never a bad reason to dump energy into a recruit if you really want them. What I will say is the more you have to do to get their attention and show that your interest versus just genuine, hey man, we want you to play or we think you'll be good, whatever, diminishing returns. So if you could put your all into it and do what you do, and I'm, not nothing, not just a text, hey, we want you to come. But if you really put into, hey, we want you to be here, let me explain the opportunity, that's about what and you got to follow up. There's all kinds of nuance to recruiting. But then we got a guy, the flip side of it, where it worked. I drove another hour and a half years and years ago now and it was an alumni's brother. What was the funny part of it was what I learned in the process of really going after him. And he ended up being a good player for us. I think I talked to his mom, who we were concerned that the brother didn't have the best experience. And he just did okay. And we liked him, but he underperformed and just, he was a part of the program, but not a great player. Not a bad player, just not a great player.
Right.
And we're just like, man, gosh, we're hoping that you get a brother if the guy had a good experience. So again, it was in question. So by the end, where the kid was like, hey, I'm coming to Sac City if I go to a JC. I'm like, all right. I was talking to the mom. Hey, he said, it sounds like he's coming. And she goes, oh, we love you guys. He's been going the whole time. And I was like,
there you go.
Huh? She's like, oh, and what it bled into was the amazing experience that his older brother had, even though he didn't do all these great things at Sac City. He still moved on and played, but the man that he became, it was one of you talk about a moment in time where it hit me where, oh, this is a great example of what we're doing is working, because the bigger picture that matters is that that why our college exists is to help society. If you want to go real, why are we here? Higher education. These kids need to grow up. These men need to become men, and the ones that I interact with, and hers did. And this, even though he didn't play overly well, the feelings that family has towards this program is how I feel about it. It's working. And so, but again, it was all, of course he's coming to Sac City. Why wouldn't he? We love this place.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I drove like 3 out of the last 4 days, a long time. And that's uncommon for a guy who already had an alumni brother here. And again, it paid off and it was great. And it did help that we showed our level of interest. We weren't just saying, hey, since you're his brother, you're coming, right? But there's a lot of different ones. And there's some scummy stories and some sneaky stuff. But there's also a couple where you're just like, yeah, this kid said he's coming. Who's he? I have no idea. He shows up in the fall and you're like, he's going to play every day for 2 years. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So you do this long enough, you get all the stories.
I was going to say, I would imagine kind of go through the Ferris wheel of the good, bad, and everything in between. But...
Absolutely. And the long-term deal is you got to be honest.
Yeah.
If a kid's not good enough and you cut him, but you're honest with him and you did give him opportunity and treated him fairly, I've actually had that come back to really help us, even though the kid, we moved him on elsewhere. If someone he knows is being recruited by us and then ask that kid, if you did right by him, even if it doesn't work out, usually you don't get, crapped on. It's like, well, they treated me fairly. That's happened so many times. And sometimes it's doing the hard stuff, right? Because if you keep a kid around, tell him he might be good and then never play him, well, you're actually kind of screwing his career. You're not helping him.
Yeah.
And so, when push comes to shove, sometimes you got to cut a guy loose that is a great person, because it is the best thing for them, even though they might fit here as a person. There's always an ebb and a flow. Just like sometimes there's phenomenal players that you got to get them out because they're not good people. They're hurting the team, even though they're great. If you can't insulate them with a bunch of quality people, they make you worse. So again, once again, there's examples of everything. Cutting a good guy because he's just not good enough, and then cutting the bad, a bad person, even though they're the best. And then the flip side is true also. So
right. So pivoting a little bit more, I kind of want to talk about the relationship between Major League ball clubs and then obviously the community college level. I think it's pretty fair to say that Sac City has a very unique and interesting relationship with the Colorado Rockies. I'm sure Jerry Weinstein has a large part to do with that as well. Yep. But from your experience and from your perspective, what built and established that relationship?
Well, I think at the beginning, if we're talking about specifically the Rockies, J-Dub. And then Andy having an opportunity there, but it's because he knew the GM. Not knew him like it was a buddy-buddy thing. He coached his son in the Northwoods League in lacrosse. And so he had this unique experience of his son played for him at a high level and was like, this guy's good.
Yeah.
And so when Andy looked up and had, he started to have aspirations that he wanted to coach at a higher level or be at a higher level of the game than here, and he was ready and prepared for it, he eventually had an opportunity because of how he'd done. But if you go back even further, the bottom line about Sac City and this junior college, and it's Jerry Weinstein was probably the guy that really accelerated our path. If there's one individual that had the most impact on what we're known for today, it's Jerry Weinstein. But before him, and he'll tell you, Sacramento, hotbed of baseball talent for a long time. And for a while, undiscovered, the amount of big leaguers that came out of Sacramento and then resided here and then had kids and, just create the level of the game, the rise of it. There's other hotbeds, Tampa, Florida, unbelievable history.
Yeah.
And obviously a lot of it in the different states and, and certain ones are new, but there's a lot of big leaguers that come from Northern California, but also Southern California, Texas and Florida. But the basis, the genesis of Sacramento is we had good players. And so Jerry Weinstein, when he came up here, he didn't come to an empty cupboard. He didn't create it. He didn't invent it. He just, pardon my French, he worked his ass off and did a better job than everybody else and got the good players to stay. And then he developed these relationships with everyone across the country and they realized, oh God, we got to go get those guys. And so what that turns into is these little hotbeds of talents like soccer in Brazil. Well, everybody's going to go there for players. Why? Because they're the best. Because they're competing each other from a young age. And a lot of professionals come from this area. And we're just fortunate that our programs had a lot of them stop here first. And so that's the unique relationship. It's the quality of player. And then over time, the enhancement of the players. And this place has a lot of knowledge. And I think we've put it to good use. And, like if a pitcher comes in here very specifically because of our experience through a long period of time, but also the passion and expertise of Descahe Monberry, they are being coached to get to professional baseball and succeed, both physically, mentally, and technically. And that's why we're one of the best places to go. We know what it looks like, what big leaguers can be at 17, 18, 19, 20 years old when they're just scratching the surface and trying to hone their abilities. Again, long-winded of starts with the quality of player. Our program has been fortunate, but also capitalized on said opportunity and eventual expertise. Our guys tend to be ready for professional baseball, and so do our coaches.
I would say so, yeah.
I kind of want to build off of that. What's like a key aspect that you find in players that age where you can kind of view what they're going to be?
Well, there has to be a level of physical ability that sets them apart, like a tool, a strength, the 5 professional tools, right? Run, throw, hit for average, hit for power, and defense, right? The 5 pro tools. You got to have some of them, or at least one of them, because you're not going to get on the radar. And anymore, there's with the different technologies that are out there, they can identify further what that looks like. Pitchers ahead of hitters because hitting's still the hardest thing, but like it's ability, raw ability, and then this ridiculous dedication to, hey man, I'm willing to do almost anything it takes to get to that level. And an uncommon amount of trust. And again, this is just my experience here in us and a program and coaching and an individual to go, I will follow the path that you know or have seen. So the combination of they got to have the ability. Very, very, very rarely does a guy without ability get to the highest level. You have to. But once that's more easily identifiable.
Mhm.
But the character piece, the makeup, that's referred to a lot in the pro game. That's you got to uncover that, and I think we're good at developing it. But I don't believe that you just have it or you don't, but you have to have some things, and usually a combination of multiple factors. But oftentimes it really stands out. You're just like, oh, that guy could be a big leaguer. And the older I get, the more I've seen, like, oh, that's kind of what that kid looked like at this age.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a little easier to get on board. But then they have to get on board. You can't just have a really, really good player and then you do it all for them or tell them what they can be. They have to be involved in it. They have to be involved in their own development. And like I said, that's the next piece that's where most people fail.
Yeah.
Many, many, many have the ability. Not everyone. But then that next piece that really, just cuts the cream off the top is who can do it on their own, who can be tough and resilient and willing to overcome and competitive even when they're failing. That's the fun part. That's the journey.
I like that. So how do you navigate between doing what's best for a guy's development and what's best for the team's chances of winning and succeeding?
We try like hell to make sure it's both. And sometimes that comes down to, well, this guy needs to have more at bats, but to win we should bunt better. We constantly, in our striving for a state championship, we've done it before. We've gotten really close. We lead the state in second place finishes in the history of the state. But we'll err on the side of player development. But I don't think it has to be a choice. You don't have to choose one over the other instead.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, if you can develop a guy that's going to be a bunch of guys that are Division I caliber that can play at that level, makes it a little easier to win some junior college games.
Yeah.
And so, that's what we ascribe to. It's, hey, individual player development in a team concept. And, we coach the team stuff for sure. We have a lot of really good things, but we'll get to those things a little bit later because we have to develop our guys. That's our promise to them in recruiting. You're going to get better. You're going to see how you're going to get as good as you can be here, better than other places. And we'll sacrifice a little bit of the team stuff, especially early. Like we'll take a lot of the fall program, and it's about the guys, individual, not the team. Outside of the better we can make our individual players, I really believe that we'll have a better team. And it's pretty simple, straightforward. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's difficult. You got to make hard decisions. But at some point it does shift and you go, all right, now we need to win too. But it's a constant source of conversation and oftentimes struggle. Like, in the fall, if we played team baseball from the beginning, we'd be better at it.
Mm.
But I think we might not be as good in the end. So if we're talking about winning the whole thing and getting our guys to the highest levels, we'd be sacrificing those things to be better earlier. And I think ultimately fail in the end because we don't fully cultivate our guys and not prepare them for the future. I think it's a short-sighted approach. Although it's necessary to win, we kind of back burner it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes we should probably do more of it, but as long as we feel like we're doing right by our players and their development and where they're going to end up, and again, for the greater good, we think that that'll pay us off in the end by having better players.
So, question I want to ask you personally, I think you've built definitely one of the most successful collegiate and community college universities and programs for college baseball in California. Do you feel as if you have any unfinished business with community college baseball?
Oh yeah, to win a state championship.
Yeah.
And I'm speaking selfishly, but I'm also speaking for the rest of my coaches and all the players and the alumni. You know, we haven't had a state champion since '99, and we've been close. Like we talked about, we've been to the Final Four, I think 6 or 7 different times since then.
Yeah.
The state title game 3 times, and fell short. Yeah, we got unfinished business because this is a place where we can win a state championship.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. And it's not easy, but we have all the supports and locations and what we need to win a state title. It's just finding the secret sauce, the magic to have it all happen. But yeah, absolutely. That's something for me that's the overriding thing that I want for our program and but definitely selfishly as well.
Has that kept you here too, and kind of been part of the reason why you've stayed with the program for so long?
I'm pretty sure I'm going to stay till retirement.
Yeah.
And for a lot of reasons, I think that I love doing this, and I could move on, but I wouldn't enjoy it as much. Maybe there's more money, there's less security. My kids are young in here, and that's a piece of me that I don't want to give up. I just am not going to chase my own individual dream at the expense of my kids and not being here, because that's ultimately what it would be. And so that's probably a bigger piece than just not winning a state championship. But either way, it's still something that I don't think that I would think about moving on until I had one.
Yeah.
I feel strongly about that.
Yeah. It's definitely been present, especially through our entire conversation. It's very noticeable when a guy has a chip on their shoulder, whether especially when we spoke to Ryan too, and we
he's got a chip. He survived and got to the big leagues, and with a very talented man and young man. But the chip is what got him there and had made him successful.
Yeah,
it's hard to put it down.
No, and it's present too, just how he talks, how he communicates.
Oh yeah,
and then with him potentially considering seeking out some MLB coaching in some way or another, whether it be a full-time gig for him or just on the side. That was a question I wish I got to ask him was, is your unfinished business going back to coach, and is that going to quench that for you? So
I'm very curious on where do you personally see college baseball heading within the next decade?
I think you're going to see a lot. Well, you're seeing it now. A lot more money at the high end. There's a level of broadcast and ability to market it. So there's revenue. It's a revenue generating sport at a lot more places than it ever used to be. They're shrinking the minor leagues, and I think especially with the ability to make money in college baseball, seniors are going to stay around. So the level of the Division I game is going to go through the roof because you're going to keep guys around instead of them all leaving because the only place they can make money is in professional baseball. So I think the overall quality is it's going to increase because you're going to get longer holdovers at the 4-year level, which means not as many guys are going to have access to it because they're not flushing out as juniors. And so our game will raise and just get more competitive. Ultimately probably less access because spots will be taken for longer. And people are going to want to make life decisions that are on the fringe, and that's healthy. But it'll change in that way, and I think the level of the game will raise. People know more about training methods. You're going to see, before you know it, you're going to see like junior college arms routinely in the low 90s because the training methods are very good and locked in. So, the level of the game is going to go up. Let's put it that way.
Do you think that's going to close the gap on certain stories of guys coming in who just need those extra opportunities?
This is always going to be a place of opportunity, and our level will. Mm-hmm. So I think there's enough. I mean, there's story after story. Usually there's an issue if a guy's a phenomenal junior college guy. Rarely anymore is it unnoticed. Like back in the day when there was less, media, social media, scouting services people are making money in this game being kind of ancillary people, which not bad necessarily, just didn't exist before. But there's always going to be the stories of how'd that guy get there? Oh, wow, listen to this. And I don't think it's going to close the gap. It'll just be a little different.
The greater Sacramento region has made significant contributions to the sport of baseball, with the A's arriving in town and the bid opening for an expansion team. Is Sacramento getting more of the recognition it deserves finally?
It's cool to have a big league team in town. Problem is the extra pieces that go along with it are, teams don't want to come here to play.
Yeah.
And they still are holding back on, giving us a big league franchise. And I think it's just business. I don't get caught up on that. I'd love it if we had a major league team. Clearly, I'm a baseball guy.
Yeah.
But that's not the biggest city yet, and that makes it a little bit more difficult to have a major league professional franchise of any sort. The Kings have had some runs. That's tough. So when I look at it in that context, it's like probably just not a big league town yet.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's also okay.
Yeah. It's not the end of the
We're
world.
also not Podunk. It's the capital of the best state in the union.
Yeah.
Well, I'm biased. I'm from here.
Yeah.
A lot of people think otherwise, but there's a reason people come here to live. It's great.
So.
And Sacramento, I'm partial to. I don't need to be in a big town, and we're getting bigger. We got all the things we need.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Except for the 110-degree summers, that's the only thing I could do without.
But yeah, if it was 97, we could deal without the extra 10 to 13 degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah. So last question I have for you: when your coaching career is over and people are kind of talking about the work that you've done and reflecting on your career as a whole, what do you hope they remember about you?
That I really cared about what I did and the people that I did it with. Big picture, We talk about that a lot, about, what you want people to say at your funeral or your retirement party. I would hope they said that I cared and was passionate, was willing to help others. I do it for myself too, but it's nice to, I go to sleep satisfied at night that not only did I try to be my best, but I'm helping others in their endeavors, and that bleeds into many other things too. But, my vehicle is baseball, and I hope that people understand and recognize that, and he really cared about me more than I maybe thought then. And I've had good feedback on that, which continues to drive me towards, I think I'm doing the right things. I think I'm in the right field. Can always be better. I've got my own flaws and, continue to have to work on them. But that's what I hope people say about me. Man, that guy cared a lot about a lot of people. And I get that back too. I think a lot of people care about me. So I like I said, I sleep well at night.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time, Coach. I appreciate it.
You
Thanks
betcha.
for talking again. And if you have anything that you want to plug or talk about a little bit before we end the pod, the time is now yours.
Go Panthers. And we'll be here for the long haul. And it's always going to be about the same stuff. Whoever's in my position in the future, they'll care about the same things, I believe.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. Take care.
All right.
Good.